Good morning. Y'all may be seated. My name is Matt. I'm the executive pastor here at Austin Baptist Church, and glad to have the opportunity to be able to speak with y'all today. I'll move my table right here. There we go. I've been here at the church for about 9 years, and many of you know, my wife's name is Adrian. Adrian is my better half. We have been married for 10 and a half years, but you know even though a lot of people know Adrian, what a lot of people don't know is that there was a point when we first started dating where she almost broke up with me. Shocker, right? How dare she? So here's the story. Here's how it all worked out. When we were starting to date, Adrian told me that coming up, she had a 5-year high school reunion. Now, if you're like me, my immediate reaction was I wanted to throw up, all right? The idea of going back and talking with people that I haven't seen in years and having to pretend that I still remember who they are when I really don't, and trying to pretend that they actually knew who I was and I don't, it was not a pleasant thing for me to consider. But I went through it. We went and met all these dear friends of hers. And then, whenever we got done, I said to her, quote, and she reminded me of this, quote, do I really need to remember these people? Do I really need to remember the names of these people that are your friends? Oh, she was mad. Oh, goodness. Like, she had said that she went into the kitchen afterwards, and she just was like, oh, I'm gonna kill him. I'm going to break up with him. But ultimately, what I did not realize is that Adrian had developed these deep friendships with these people that she had held for years and years and still holds to this day. And friendship was something that she held deep in her heart for that. And what I came to realize is that as adults, sometimes we struggle to be able to keep these friendships, right? Like, I've heard it told, and we've been talking in the college ministry here at ABC earlier this summer about the miracles that Jesus did. The one miracle that he never gets credit for is the fact that he had 12 friends in his 30s, right? So there we go. Now we're laughing. All right, I love it. But it really is true. It is hard for us to make friends as adults because of life, because of busyness, because of just the lack of ability to interact. But it's something that we all seek. And so as we've been walking through this series called Wisdom Works, as we're looking at lessons from the book of Proverbs, the question comes, if friendship is something that everyone seeks, how do we use wisdom in choosing friendships? So today, we're going to be bouncing through like a ping pong ball through the book of Proverbs. I've got several passages that we're going to look at. And so if you would take out your devices, if you are a device person, if you're a paper Bible person, get ready to burn up those pages here today. Not in a literal way, in the turning way. And then it'll also be up on the screen. But today, as we talk, we're going to be looking at the book of Proverbs and learning from Scripture what it means to have wise friendships. So the first one that we're going to read, and the first point of the message today, is that wise friends build you up. And we're going to read first from Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. If you'll turn or flip there. I'm going to give you just a second because I hear a couple pages. All right, verse 20. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So remember, as we've been talking through the Proverbs, who wrote this? It's always, if you're ever reading anything in Scripture, it's helpful to know who the person is that's writing the words that you see on the screen or in the book. And so in this case, this book of Proverbs was written by Solomon, who was the richest, wisest king in the history of Israel. And so being this rich, powerful king, you know that he had around him lots of people, and he would understand the terminology of what friendship looks like, about what real friends look like. And so as he's sitting here talking about friendship in these Proverbs, he gives us the first and the biggest overview on the role of friendship, that who you are around impacts who you become. You know, this is similar for things like athletics or education, that if you surround yourself with people who are less skilled than you are in an area, your personal skills are going to decline. If you're in athletics and you play, if you're an 8th grader and you play basketball against 4th graders, you're never going to get any better at basketball. You will get better at learning how to stuff somebody though and really put it in their face. But if on the other hand, in education and in athletics, you put yourself around people who are more skilled than you, who are smarter than you, who are better than you, As you play, as you compete, as you challenge yourself, you then are able to grow, because what you surround yourself with and what you build up around yourself as far as relationships and friendships defines who you are going to become. It reminds me also of the area of language learning. If you've ever tried to learn a foreign language, very few people ever really learn a language by just doing an app or a language learning program. If you're like me, you get in there and you're like, oh, I got to do this, and then you do 15 minutes, and you're like, okay, now I never have to think about this again, but somehow I'm going to know how to speak Polish or Spanish or whatever language it is I'm going to learn. Anyone who's a language expert will tell you the best way to learn a language and really learn it, to be able to express yourself in it, to be able to think the way that people in our language do, is by immersing yourself in it, surrounding yourself with it. It reminds me of one time when Kate was, I believe, 4 or 5 years old, my daughter Kate, in Vacation Bible School. So she comes home from Vacation Bible School, and all of a sudden, she's saying this word that I've never heard before. I don't really understand what it is. I'm like, Kate, can you say that again? She's like, oh yeah, I want to go back to my house. All of a sudden, she's talking like this as though she's from Southern Georgia. Apparently, she had a teacher at Vacation Bible School who had a very Southern drawl. And because Kate was immersed in that, all of a sudden, she started speaking that same way. The people that we surround ourselves with, the people that we listen to, start to define who we become. And this is not just in areas like education or language immersion. You've probably heard this said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. When you sit here right now and are thinking about your friend groups, the people that you associate with, the people that you entrust yourself to, the people that you spend time with and engage and invest with, what does your future look like? Is it something that you're looking forward to or something else? What does your future hold when you consider who your friends are? Solomon goes on. We're going to read now from Proverbs chapter 22, verses 24 through 25, as he continues talking about the development of ourself based off of the people that we are around. Verse 24, make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor go with a wrathful man, lest you learn his ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Not only are the things that your friends do, the things that your friends do going to change what you do, the things your friends care about are going to become the things you care about. In the case of this proverb, he's talking about anger, that if you associate yourself and entrust yourself to somebody who has a quick temper and gets angry very quickly, you're going to find yourself over time becoming that same way of caring about these same things with anger that you see in this person that you love and trust and care about. But we need to look beyond just anger to other characteristics, because the reality is what our friends care about is what we care about. And what we have to consider is, what do your groups of friends really care about when you spend time together? It's been amazing to me over time to watch the decisions that people make within a group of friends that they would never do by themselves. People that you would say are the nicest, sweetest people. I've watched them get into a group of friends and start saying the ugliest things about people, the most ridiculous gossip, the most judgmental things, because they start bouncing it off of each other and they start giving each other room to be able to care about that kind of thing, to engage with gossip. I've seen people who toe the line, who are perfectly well put together in their lives, when they hang out with groups of friends, start smoking weed, start getting drunk, start doing things, acting like idiots. But we say, oh, well, that's just my golfing group. That's my poker group. You see, what happens is we have these groups of people, and when we start going into them and we start investing in them and giving over to them, we think, oh, well, I'm going to stay the same person. I'm always the same person, right? Until you're with a group of people that you love and you care about. Because then what will begin to happen is that the things they care about will start to become things you care about. And it's not just things like gossip or drunkenness. It's rage. It's complaint. It's gluttony. When you consider your group of friends, are you the same person you are here that you are with them? Do you care about the same things with your friends that you care about here? And the question then has to become, if they're different, why is it different? When we're looking at real friendship, it has to be something that is based in deeper things than just performing for our comforts or for a lowest common denominator. Like in your friendships, have you considered, how can I get into a group of people that care about learning, that care about art, that care about beauty, that care about growing your mind and your heart about understanding the world? When have you considered having your groups of friends that care about joy, that care about celebrating together the good things in life, good things that God has done? Have you considered a group that is about encouragement, that instead of speaking hateful things about people who are not there in the room, say things that build up and grow and encourage and align with what God has for people? Our friendships are going to be, the things our friends care about are going to become the things that we care about. And so we've talked a lot already about some of the negative things that can happen in friendships, and we've talked about the way that it can negatively impact us. Luckily, Solomon also does some positive things about friendship as well. Let's look at Proverbs 27, verse 17. And this is one that I think most of you in the room, or many of you in the room, will be familiar with. And it says, "As iron sharpens iron, so also one man sharpens another." In this passage, one of the things that I've thought about that you kind of take for granted, what makes a knife actually sharp? We just kind of think, oh, well, it's a knife, therefore it's sharp. I don't understand why you're even asking the question. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. What is it that makes a blade sharp? Now, my father-in-law, Tim Leach, cared a lot about this kind of thing. He had a bunch of knives and whetstones and grindstones and things like that. And he really cared. He's like, "Matt, now you don't put knives in the dishwasher because it's going to wind up dulling the blades. You got to hand wash them, then you got to sharpen them." And so that question came up. Okay, so then what's actually happening when you are sharpening a knife? So what's happening is you have this rough whetstone or grindstone, and you're taking the blade and you're bringing it across it. You're dragging the blade across this rough surface. What is happening is, on a microscopic level, a dull knife doesn't look like that, doesn't have that straight line. It has little bits of metal that are kind of going every which way, so that as a knife is used, little bits of metal kind of break and bend and move around in different ways, so that microscopically, when you look at it, it's not one line. It's not in the direction that the blade was designed to go. It's bent off in all sorts of different directions, so that when you take the knife and you bring it across the stone, those little bits are broken off. See, sometimes I think we're tempted to think that sharpening is a process by which the knife something's added to the knife to make it stronger. What's happening is it's cutting away the things that are not a part of the purpose of that blade. Friends, in our lives, our friendships are designed not to just make us feel good about ourselves, but to challenge us and to grind away the things in our lives that are not meant for the purpose which we were created. In kind of a casual way, one way to say this is, you need a friend who's willing to call you stupid, okay? The people who care about you most in life are going to be the ones that understand what God's plan is for you, that see the way that He wants you to walk, but then are willing to call you out when you're getting off that path. When they see that they know you're designed for something else, but because of your choices, you're going off of that path. You need people who are willing to challenge you, to make you better. I think a lot of our modern conception of friendship is that we build people around us that like us, that want to be like us, that want to tell us nice things about each other, that wouldn't dare express an opinion about choices that we make. The reality is, real friends see what God has created you to be and challenges you toward that. And sometimes it's painful, because breaking away of things is never a pleasant thing. It's never pleasant. But God's design for strong and good friendship is a sharpening. It's a breaking away of things that are not designed, breaking away the things that don't fit in with the design of the person, and help guide them in the way that God created them to be. And a hard truth of this, real friendship is not ignoring destructive life choices. I think sometimes we think that I don't want to be involved. I don't really want to. I see this person making this choice, and I don't want to say anything about it because I don't want to be awkward or rude or whatever else. The reality is that's not being a friend. That's being a sycophant. It's being someone who's more concerned about what the other person thinks about them than really loving them and wanting the best for them and wanting to be a part of what God is doing in their life. Real friendship sharpens you, challenges you, and real friends are going to be those that want you to grow and to become better, to see you succeed and thrive in life, not just be comfortable all the time. And so that's one of the big questions of this. Are the friendships that you're creating, when we say that wise friends build you up, are these friendships that you're creating with other people making you comfortable, or are they challenging you to grow? Are they challenging you to align yourself with what God has for you? So that's the first point. Wise friends build you up. The second one, wise friends stick with you. We're going to look at Proverbs 12, verse 26. So we're going to bounce on back there. Verse 26 says, "One who is righteous is a guide to his neighbor, but the way of the wicked leads them astray." This proverb recognizes that all friendship is connected with leading and guiding. And as part of this, it begs the question of these friendships that you're creating around yourself, these people that you're entrusting yourself to, the people that you love and care about, how are they leading you and guiding you? What are they giving of themselves as a part of this friendship? Now, in illustrating this, I'm going to have to go into sports. So for the non-sports people in the room, I know you're going to roll your eyes, but just deal with it, and it's okay. But many of you know who this is as we get this next slide up, Bill Belichick, all right? So Bill Belichick, love him or hate him, is one of the most successful coaches in the history of the National Football League. He's won 6 Super Bowls. Now, you can argue whether Tom Brady is the reason why he won, but he's got the Super Bowl rings, so there you go. He's been very, very successful, and when you're considering him as a coach, you would say, well, I guess, Bill Belichick has been pretty successful. So this is a tale of two Bills. That's the first one, Bill Belichick. Pull up the second one. The second one, many of you in this room may not know who this is. This guy's name is Bill Walsh. He was the coach of the San Francisco 49ers. I just can't say that word without getting sick to my stomach a little bit. As a Cowboys fan, I just sends a chill. But Bill Walsh won 3 Super Bowls, which is great. I mean, better than me. But, it's a pretty successful career, winning 3 Super Bowls, being the bane of the Cowboys, being this, otherworldly kind of coach. But if you were to look at Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh, and you were an assistant coach trying to find someone who was going to grow you in your career, I think you would look at that and say, well, I think I want to be with Bill Belichick. He's won twice as many Super Bowls as Bill Walsh. That would seem to make sense, right? But there's an interesting thing called coaching trees. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of this, but every NFL coach has a series of assistant coaches that work under them. These are guys that they train up, that they get to run their offense, defense, whatever. And so you have all these young men who come in there, and then oftentimes other teams will then hire them to be their assistant coaches or become their head coaches. So when you look at the coaching trees of these 2 men, Bill Belichick and Bill Walsh, take a guess. After the long career that Bill Belichick has had of 6 Super Bowls, of all this success, how many of his assistant coaches have gone on to be a head coach that won a Super Bowl? 0. See, Bill Belichick, when he's running his staff, he only gives a piece of the strategy, a piece of the game plan. If you're on the offense, you get the plan for that, but you don't get anything from the defense. You're going to focus on your area. You're going to make me successful. And I'm going to be successful, but when you go, you're not going to have the keys, the development, the strength. And as that's happened, all these other assistant coaches who were supposed to be learning from Bill Belichick, and these other teams think, well, he was associated with someone who was successful, maybe they're going to be successful. They have not been. Take a guess at how many assistant coaches from Bill Walsh have won Super Bowls. 9. There have been 9 other coaches who have gone on to win the highest prize in the National Football League because of their learning under this man. See, Bill Walsh was different than Bill Belichick in that he shared the whole game plan with his coaches. He taught them, he raised them up, he empowered them, so that then when they went to go coach, they also had the whole game plan. They had success. Here's the point. There are going to be people in your life that you're going to want to be drawn to because they're successful, but just because someone is successful does not mean that they're going to be a good friend to you. Sometimes people are successful because they gather all things to themselves. Other times people are successful because they give it away. When you're considering the friendships in your life, you need to understand that no matter who it is you're hitching your wagon to or who you're being friends with, They are going to guide you in your life. That is going to happen. And the question is, are you going to associate yourself and give yourself to somebody who's going to give to you and invest and share in you? Real friendships will teach you along the way. They'll stick with you when things get difficult. And you have to choose who you're going to entrust yourself to carefully, because they're going to be the ones that are with you on the race. For many of you who are young people in this room, you find yourself at a crossroads in life where it is hard to find adult friends. It is. Many of us work 60, 70 hours a week. It's hard. But that's all the more reason why you have to be so careful who you choose to be those deep friends, because they're going to be the ones that wind up guiding your path. The people that you're around are going to be the people that you become. Keeping moving. Proverbs 18, verse 24. Turn with me there. A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. See, the number of friends that you have doesn't win the race, but quality does. And sometimes those friends that you make, those people that you invest in who are not family, who are not blood, become family to you because of how they love, because of how you've invested in each other. And see, this is the temptation I think we find a lot as teenagers, as adolescents. And for those teenagers in the room, I think sometimes there's this temptation of I judge the quality of myself and my value based on the amount of friends that I have around myself. And we look at people who are popular and who are doing the things that we want to do and say, oh, look at all the friends that they have. They must be doing something right. That's the person that I want to be around. Solomon says in this that, look, you can have many companions, but still come to ruin. But when you create those friendships that are deep, wise friends that stick with you, they become like family. They become the ones that will sustain you on this path, on this road. And see, I think those of us in the room who are adults are hearing this and saying, oh yeah, well, I know better than that. I got over being a teenager long ago and all of those insecurities, right? Let me ask you this. Last time that you were on social media, did you check how many likes your last post got? When was the last time you took account of how many friends you have on Instagram, or followers you have on Instagram, or friends you have on Facebook? Ouch. These insecurities that we have, this desire to be loved, to be invested in, and this desire to multiply that around us and to account for it by quantity doesn't go away. It's always going to be a temptation, friends, that we want to gather around ourselves all these people that we think will make us better. But what we really ought to be doing is searching out those people who are going to be like family to us. Are you aiming your friendships at quantity or quality? Because it's all well and good that you'll say that you'll be there for your friends, but are you willing to bleed for them? Are you willing to walk with them through the difficult parts of life? And here is, on this slide, the most important point that when I look at all of these Proverbs, when I look at the biblical teaching about what friendship is, this is how it comes together for me. The most important aspect of wisdom and friendship is focusing on being a great friend, not resenting that others aren't being better friends with you. I hear this all the time from lonely people. These people, I'm betrayed by this person. Why is no one better friends with me? Why are people not doing this for me? Why do I not have this? And then if you're talking in the sphere of being single, why have I not found my spouse? Why is this not working out for me? The common denominator in all of this is me. Is this desire of I have to draw it to myself. Guys, you cannot control the quality of a friend toward you. You can't. You can't make a good friend just in front of you and then that person going to be there forever. You have to be the kind of friend that you want to have for other people. Because if you don't, you will find yourself alone. And frankly, if you are the kind of person who makes your friendships based on what others can give to you, you become that needy friend. You become that person that you hate, that always needs something, that's always taking something from you, who's never there when things are going difficult, but it's only there whenever things they can benefit from. You know, having been a youth minister for as long as I was, I've seen over and over again this activity called what I call the dream spouse list, right? Where you challenge a teenager to write out this list of these characteristics that they want to see in their future spouse, right? The first one's always, he has to love Jesus. That's always good. You know, that always has to be at the top of the list. Then you get into the other ones. I hope he has blue eyes. I hope he likes horses. Sorry, I had to do that. And guys and men in the room, yours would be, I hope she's pretty. I hope she doesn't think I'm stupid. We develop out these long lists of these characteristics, these shopping lists we want for a future spouse. But you can't control that. And honestly, you're setting a bar so high that nobody's ever going to reach that. It's crazy. And frankly, men in the room, if you make a list like that, you're probably not good enough for someone like that, okay? Just, think about that. But here is what we can do. You can write out a list and think and pray over the kind of spouse you want to be. How are you developing aspects and characteristics and attributes of faithfulness, of truthfulness? How are you, before you're married, laying out your life for your friends and taking time to sacrifice of yourself for somebody else? See, those are the kind of things that when you get to the point that God gives you the spouse that you're going to have, then you'll be ready for that person. And you won't be chasing a phantom. And so the most important aspect of wisdom and friendship is focusing on how to be a great friend and not resenting that others aren't being better friends for you. That brings us to the last proverb that we're going to look at, which is Proverbs 17, verse 17. And it says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity." This friendship that is real and deep isn't born for comfort or for convenience. See, when you read this, it just kind of washes right over you. And unfortunately, this is the way the way the Proverbs go, where there's so many one-shot kind of things. We just roll right on through it. But look at that. It says a brother is born for adversity. That word "for" indicates purpose, meaning. That the friendships that you create that get to that friend that's as close as a brother, they're not born for comfort or for entertainment or for people saying nice things about you. They're born for the fact that we are going to go through times of adversity, and we need each other in those times. It makes me think about Northern California, that there is a really beautiful natural wonder up there. I don't know if you've ever traveled up to it, but it's the redwood forest. Now, in Texas, we have the mesquite, we call them trees. They're really bushes, right? You go to California, and they have these trees. They're giant. I mean, you're talking that these trees are about 35 foot in diameter. So let me illustrate that for you. If I were to walk it out here on the stage, because I need to get my steps in today, I would start on one end of the tree here, and I'd start walking this way and keep on going. I'm keeping on going. Y'all are getting your money's worth today. I'm putting out some sweat. Here's the other side of where that tree would be. These trees are enormous. They are huge. And so you might think, when you're looking at that, what kind of root system does that tree need to be able to stand up? I mean, if you've ever been gardening and had to dig out a cactus or a yucca out of your yard that has those horrible deep tap roots that you have to pull and dig and pull and finally pull it out, man, that must be hundreds of feet deep, right? The reality is redwood trees' roots are relatively shallow. They don't go down, they go out. And so you might be asking, well, that's crazy. That means that if a wind comes and blows on it, it's going to fall over. I mean, it doesn't have any kind of depth to it. I mean, that's an easy life lesson, right? There's a reason why redwoods don't grow by themselves. You always see redwoods in groves because those roots, when they grow out, they intertwine. So now, instead of just relying on the one roots, that the tree's own roots that go straight down, that hold it up, this community, this grove of trees, holds each other up. So that when those storms come, when those winds come, the roots hold together. The root systems are designed for adversity, but they're not designed for adversity in strength of themselves. They are designed for adversity in the strength of holding together. The strength of your friendship will necessarily ask, what are you doing to hold up others around you? Are you living your life as though you're an island, that you don't need anybody else, that you're self-sufficient? Because God didn't create you that way. God did not create our faith to be lived alone. That's one of the reasons why I was so proud of what Lisa did today in being baptized. You have to understand that act, while it's a personal choice, is backed up by a family of believers. That in our faith, we are rooted together in Christ. That it's not me by myself standing up as a pillar of faith for the world. I am a part of a family, of a community that believe in Christ and depend upon Him. And doing that, we strengthen each other. Because real friends will stick with you to the end. And part of this requires us to understand something hard about life. If friendship is born for adversity, we have to understand that adversity will come. That God creates your friendships for when cancer comes. God creates your friendships when hurricanes hit. God creates your friendships for when relationships fail in your life. God creates friendship to hold you up when it seems like nothing else can. We lean on Christ, and Christ calls us to lean on one another. And as it says in Scripture, to bear one another's burdens. And so when you consider the quality of your friendships, are your friendships based off of one-offs of how strong I am in myself? Or are you considering, how am I bearing up others in the community? How am I growing with others in the community? And how am I taking on myself the burdens that my friends face? And as we reach the end of this message, I think it's important. I say end. This is turning the final corner, so nice try. Lunch is not quite yet. We said that this book was written by Solomon. And Solomon actually wrote a couple of books of Scripture. One of them was Proverbs. Another one was Song of Solomon's, the love songs. And we're not going to do that today, okay? So all the parents in the room, or thumbs up. We don't want to talk about that today. The other book that Solomon wrote was the book of Ecclesiastes. This is a book that he wrote at the end of his life. And as I said in the first service, and y'all don't take this the wrong way, but the book of Ecclesiastes is kind of a bummer, all right? When you read through it, it's kind of this, all is vanity. And it is, I mean, you see the memories of this man who was the wisest person who's ever lived on the earth, this rich king, and he is going back and surveying what was good and bad in his life, what things were of value in walking before God, and what things just were there and kind of went away. And there's a lot of negativity in that book. However, one of the things that's positive we see in chapter 4 of Ecclesiastes, verses 9 through 12. And it says, "Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if two lie together, they keep warm, but how can one keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken." At the end of riches, fame, power, popularity, and wisdom, friendship is one of the last things that stands up for Solomon. And why is that? It's our last point. Wise friends make the sacrifice. Because all of our lives are a race. We are running toward something. And as we talked about earlier, friends are going to guide you along the way. But wise friends are going to be the ones that sacrifice for each other along the way to support one another up. No one defines this better than Jesus himself in John chapter 15, verses 13 through 15, which say, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you." It's remarkable to me that as Jesus is teaching his disciples and telling them this is the greatest aspect of love, and Jesus, being the most loving person in the history of the universe, sits down and says, this is what love is. And then he says, it's this idea of sacrifice. It's not this idea of being the most popular. It's not this idea of making people feel good about themselves. It is laying one's life down for another. It's remarkable to me that he uses that as an illustration. But it's also remarkable to me that so often we degrade our friendship with Christ to something lower than what it's supposed to be. See, a couple of years ago, you had that common phrase, Jesus is my homeboy, right? And now I think we probably think that's pretty cliche. But the attitude, the principle behind it is the same. It's this idea that Jesus exists for me, that Jesus is this universal vending machine, that if I do good things, if I do enough good things in my life, I can go up to this vending machine, Jesus, press a button, and boom, here comes a wife. Boom, here comes a dog. Boom, here comes a house. All the things that I want start coming down to me. But whenever I'm called to make decisions of myself that are for things that I want, well, Jesus doesn't matter. I'm going to get mine. I'm going to take the things that I want. Jesus calls us who believe in him friends, but that friendship is not this, us taking from him constantly. Friendship is laying your life down for another. And what we have done is that instead of using his sacrificial love to mold and transform our friendships here, instead, we fashion him into an idol of our flawed greed in friendships now. We look at Jesus like the way we want to treat our friends here. And instead of having sacrificial love that lays itself down, unselfish love, we spend our lives building up our empires of sand. We gather things to ourselves, the things that we want. We don't bother to put ourselves out for another person because that's not in line with me building up my kingdom. And friends, when you get to the end of the road and you do that and you build it and you gather it all to yourself and you have all your toys and all your stuff and you have your great kingdom, the wave's going to come and wash it all away and you will have nothing. And if you don't build up friendships that are based off of self-sacrificial love, they will not be there for you either. The quality of our friendships, we should not take the greed that we have on this earth and apply it to our Savior. Rather, we should look at the friendship that Jesus has given to us, that we did not deserve, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. He loved us first. He loved us first. As we understand that, we should understand it for one another. That when we make these friendships, when we invest in other people, we give. We don't constantly take. Because when you do that, you will find your quality of friendships beginning to grow. You'll begin to see yourself in a community that challenges you, that wants to see you become what Jesus wants you to be. It's going to hurt sometimes. It's going to be hard sometimes. It's going to be lonely sometimes. But when we look at the race of life, it will be good. That you will have those that stick closer than a brother. And when Jesus says, I call you friends, hear him. That every point that we've talked about today, we would be tempted to just take this as a morality lesson of just be nicer to other people and dadgummit, things are going to go your way. No, that's not what this is about. The very Son of God laid down his life for us. Jesus builds us up. Jesus sticks with us. Jesus sacrifices. And when all else fails, he is with us. Though my life, though my wealth, though my talent, though my skill, though my beauty, though all of it go away, he is still for me and with me and loves me as I have never loved anyone else. Do you know that? Do you know him? It makes me sad so many times to see the relationship that people have with Jesus as though they're talking with their boss or talking with a doddering old grandfather. Jesus is your friend. He wants to be your friend. He wants to be close to you. He wants to have relationship with you. It's not just a code or a formula. It is a relationship. But until you allow him to transform your heart, and until you begin to see him for who he really is, you'll continue to be a stranger to him. He'll be a universal taskmaster. He'll be a universal vending machine, but he will not be your Savior and he will not be your friend. You are my friends if you do what I command of you. No greater love has one than this, than he laid down his life for his friends. I'm going to invite part of the band back up to the stage at this time. Every week we give this time of invitation. And for many of you, you may question, why do we do this? I mean, it's kind of this awkward walking forward time. The reason is, our belief is that the Holy Spirit moves in moments like these. When we are presented with the truth of Scripture, truth beyond what we would want it to necessarily be, God calls us to respond. Today as they play, after I pray, if God is laying on your heart that you've never made that choice to accept Jesus Christ as your Savior and Lord, to cut away all of the wrong connotations you've had about him and about God, and you want to know him in relationship, today is a day where you can make that decision and where you can make that choice for yourself, where you can begin to understand what it means to be a friend of God. Likewise, the other thing that we offer during these times where you're able to come up is back to that idea of being intertwined. That God did not create you to live your life of faith alone. And granted, this is a hard life. You're gonna, remember, friends are born for adversity. It's gonna happen. And have you built up around yourself a community of people that you can depend upon? As you are striving to be that kind of friend for someone else, have you found a family of faith that you can lean on, that you can trust, and that can challenge you and grow you? Say things that you may not want to hear, but that are to your good for your growing up into maturity in Jesus Christ. If that's a decision that you have not made, that you don't have a church family, make that change today. But over everything else, I hope that this strikes home. That friendship is about sacrifice. And as he has loved us, so may we also love.